All right, we are live.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to call this meeting of the Land Use and Building Management Committee of the Norwalk Common Council to order. It is now 7:02 on Wednesday, February 3rd. So the first item of business is the roll call, and I'll just call roll. Mr. Burnett,
Present.
Mr. Hooverman,
Present.
Mr. Keegan.
Here.
Mr. Sacchinelli,
Present.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Roberts is not here, and I'm here, Tom Livingston. Okay, so we have 6, we have a quorum. And is there anybody, Larry, for public participation?
I don't have any.
Yes, we do have someone that's raised their hand. Anyone else, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand electronically and I will unmute you. The first person we have is Diane Laricella.
Okay, Diane?
Good evening, everyone. I'm taking a break from observing the capital budget public hearings to speak to you tonight about 2 items on your budget. The first is under new business, item 5B, related to, I think it's number 2, Cranberry School. From what I've read about from the minutes and select meetings to observe, it appears that there may or may not be a need to demolish the structure of the gym. Whether or not it's ultimately decided to do that, I once again ask that you consider, for a more holistic, modern 21st century view of this great opportunity at Cranberry. That is to take a look at the orientation of the building in order to optimize passive solar and active solar, meaning on rooftops, in addition to possibly ground-mounted solar, in order to not only save a lot of money for the district, for the taxpayers, but to provide a curriculum enhancement, even for those young children that go to that school. Now, I have not been given the benefit or the courtesy to discuss this, and I will be spending time to literally sit down with somebody from the Board of Ed and you, Mr. Livingston, because Cranberry School has been, I guess, delayed in its enhancement for at least 4 or 5 times over the years, and I'm so happy that we're now addressing it. But let's seize upon the opportunity and create a school that is looking at sustainability. And you're going to be told, I'm sure tonight, as you've been told before, oh, we're doing everything possible. We spend over X number of millions, we must do LEED silver, and we're putting solar panels on all new construction. Well, it starts though, as I'm sure your consultants will say, it starts with the initial taking a look and optimizing the orientation of the buildings. And I haven't still not heard anyone, especially Alan and Mr. Giuliano, talking about optimizing passive solar. There have been studies that if they just look for them, they will see that there's studies that show literally points increase in testing for children that have natural light versus artificial light. So I'm not telling tall tales out of school. So I still don't see satisfactory movement in that way. Secondly, item C under building management, the air handling unit number 1 in City Hall. Unless and until we start looking at, instead of doing patchwork Band-Aid projects, and I know sometimes that's seemingly what we must do. There was an effort to benchmark and to take a look, and we still haven't looked at the City Hall as a holistically in its energy needs, what future renewable energy we can use, because as we know, the rooftop plan, which was, I don't believe, very well planned, fell by the wayside. But before we start investing $80,000 in an air handling unit, are we sure that we have enough insulation in that building? And that we're looking at energy efficiency first, because anyone that is in the business should know that you can reduce the size of your air handling units when you have a tighter building. And I still haven't, and I've asked over time, especially with our emergency generator that was put in place, a whole building generator when we didn't need it, and we wasted some money on that. But it was easier to do a whole generator because who's paying for it? The taxpayer. So before you allow the air handling unit, I just asked a question, and you don't have to answer me. I'm going to go back to the capital budget meeting, but I asked again that we look at the whole building and we make sure it's a holistic view. Because if you have a leaky old building like we have at City Hall, you have to get the largest air handling unit. And I know they're more efficient when they're new, but we may not need to spend as much money on the air handling unit if we've accounted for and planned for insulation and energy efficiency work. So I thank you for your time. Take care.
Thank you. Larry, anybody else?
No, there is not.
Alan, have you received any correspondence or anything from anybody?
No.
All right, then I will close the public participation section and move to the approval of the minutes dated December 3rd, 2020. Do I have a motion? Mr. Burnett, thank you. Any comments or corrections? I'd just like to make one correction, which is that on the top of page 2, there's an item 2, review and approve the design. It's actually the resolution. It appears twice. I just delete the first one. It just doesn't, I guess accident got left in there. So take that one out, but that's all I have. Anything? Hearing no other comments, I'll just call for raise your hand if in approval. All in favor? So 1, 2, 3. So and abstention. So it's unanimous. All right. Thank you. Let's move on to old business. Alan, 4A, discuss the options relating to disposition of city property located in the intersection of Scribner Avenue and West Cedar Street. Alan?
Thank you. Following the committee, I think probably about 2 or 3 months ago, did a public hearing on the proposed disposition of this property. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. It's intersection of West Cedar Street and Scribner Avenue. It went to Planning Commission. Planning Commission approved it with some condition, and the condition, it's a little bit more specific than typical, that in the sense that it's well, it's not typical, it's more detailed. They have an interest to see, to the extent possible, to maintain as much green space as possible for this area. And I think I have my backup memo that describes some other things that the commission talked about. But the primary objective for the primary focus of their conditions, it's focused on green space. Recognizing that we are selling this property to Cemeterra for potentially parking / access drive kind of thing. They still want to like to see the maximum ability to maintain open space. So since that planning commission meeting, me and Gino had conversation about this. Gino is it's part of the Zoom meeting. If you don't mind, I'll have him talk about what some of the thoughts that we have together. Gino?
Yes, okay, sorry. Hello, everyone. Yes, I looked over the plan and what my potential interests are and what I can do. And I believe that there's going to be a good amount of the property that is going to be landscaped, only because, of restrictions for setbacks. And just by looking it over, I believe that there's going to be a minimum of 25% of it that's going to be, I guess, considered green space, whether it's grass, whether it's landscaped, something to that effect. And I'm hoping that, just in looking at the piece of property, and, on the backside, that there's a slope to it and so forth. And, just in every direction, there's really not much that, that could be done with it. However, it'll allow me to get access to my property. And if I'm allowed, if it's acceptable, to put some, maybe, so however many parking spaces that I could, but there's only going to be, as far as I know, a small amount of area that I potentially could put parking.
So, Mr. Matera, thank you for coming. A couple things on that spot. I think people were reacting to primarily the corner, if you will. There's a bunch of trees there and some green. Is that an area you would be looking to keep as green or what?
Well, there is a sewer easement that goes through the property. So as far as me, I don't think there's any potential to build anything on there just because of the setbacks and where it is. So I think that there's going to be a good majority of that, there's nothing that could be done to it. You can't put parking in the front setback or anything like that. So I believe, like I said, there's going to be at least a minimum of 25% of it that is going to be considered. But by me saying green, it's just not grass that's going to be overgrown. It's going to be something that's going to be manicured. It's going to have trees around it. And it's something that's going to look very nice.
So you would undertake to maintain this property?
Absolutely.
So Alan, what are you looking for from tonight, just to give us information?
I think there's two more, and this been going on for probably like 4 years, right? At this point, we went through public hearing, went to planning commission. I think there's basically two things that me and Gino need to work on. One is that I think we should come back with a proposed kind of layout, what area we want to be dedicated for open space. Larry, could you put the agenda up? Is it possible? But on the back up, there's a site plan on it.
Yeah, I'll look for it. Yeah.
It's probably page 12.
Larry, I have it up if you want to give me authority to share. Can I share?
Yes, thank you.
Are you guys seeing it all?
There we
There
go.
it is.
I can't zoom in on this. I have
that's-
to launch it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Yeah, so you can see the hatch mark. That's a sanitary sewer that go for the property, and the city going to reserve an easement over that area. So that area they can build on. Potentially, he can put a few parking spaces over there. But besides that, there's no structure, anything that go into that area. And also, there's probably a setback requirement for landscaping. So I think the next step for us to do is me and Gino should sit down and just work out area that they don't need. At the same time, he can dedicate it for open space landscaping area. So we can bring it back to committee to just confirm that the area that we are committed, or Gino's committed to do provide landscaping on. Thereafter, then we will have to get an appraisal of the property, because once we put restrictions on, it changes the value of the property somewhat. But in any event, we still need Gino has done an appraisal on the property, but again, the city need to do one. So he's going to provide the funds to the city to do an appraisal on the property, independent appraisal on the property. So those are two more steps, and then we'll bring it back to land use. Assuming that we have agreement, then we go to full common council for final action.
Okay. I mean, I personally would like to see as many trees kept as possible, but I understand there are some of those trees are not in great locations or not great shape, but just throw that out there.
I don't think that there's going to be very many trees that are going to be removed, because I believe the trees that you're looking at from the street go up the slope to the next property owner up there. So the majority of what you're looking at right now is just basically a grass area, which is, grass gets way overgrown and, it's not really maintained that well. So I don't believe that there's going to be very many trees other than where it abuts on West Cedar Street in that direction, along my frontage, which is, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 feet or something, because that's where the building is going to be going.
Okay. Well,
So-
I'll let you guys work this out. Any other comments or discussion? All right, then we'll just wait for you guys to come back. Alan.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Matera.
No worries. Thank you.
All right, moving on. New business, Norwalk Historical Commission review request to enter into assistance agreement with Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum for upcoming building improvements and refer the following to the Common Council for action. A, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute an assistance agreement with Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum at Norwalk CT for the Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum Improvement Project in the amount of $2,500,000, account noted. B, upon development of project scope and design, the project will be subject to Planning Commission Section 8-24 review. Do you have a motion?
Move that.
Thank you, Mr. Sachinelli. Alan, do you want to give a little background on this?
Yeah, is there somebody else from Lockwood Matthews, Representative Lockwood Matthews mentioned historic? I think the Historic Commission is meeting at the same time as we
And they're
are.
meeting right now. Wasn't,
I think
Patsy
either
was gonna come.
Susan or somebody is,
I thought Patsy was.
I thought Patsy was coming, but maybe she went to the historical commission instead.
Larry, do you know anybody is waiting waiting to at the lobby or?
No, I don't see it. No.
All right, because I sent the Zoom invite to Patsy and Dave and also
Susan
Schweitzer.
Susan Schweitzer is in the she's a participant right now.
Yes,
Okay.
She has her hand raised.
Susan just raised her hand.
All right,
Would you like me to
sure,
Yeah,
please.
bring it, let her in,
bring her into this meeting?
Yes, please.
please.
Okay. Hold on a minute, Susan.
Susan, you there?
You're on mute. Hi, Susan.
I'm trying to unmute me.
You got it. You got it. We
You got it.
can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm ready to answer any questions.
All right, so maybe just a little bit introduction. The city approved $2.5 million to the Historic Commission to help support the renovation project. Well, not renovation, it's really a co-update in terms of providing fire protection and a number of different things. And Susan get into that a little bit more. I don't have that much detail.
But
The city, the museum has received a $5 million grant from the state prior to our the city's approval of $2.5 million. And it always been a $7 to $8 million construction project, but the state only provided $5 million. So again, 2 years ago, the Historic Commission on behalf of Lockwood Matthews Mansion come to the city and requested the money and subsequently approved $2.5 million.
So Alan, that was approved, we started the 2019, 2020 year, right?
Yeah, if you look at the account number, it's 0920, that means year ending 20, so it's 1920.
Right, so this is money that's been previously approved, has not been spent. This resolution, by the way, does not call for an expenditure at this time either. This is just for the assistance agreement to help the project get done. But let Susan give a little more background on that.
Yeah, the reason I suggested this assistance agreement is that because there's no direct, when the city approved money for the Lockwood Matthews Mansion, which is a board, and it's not a division of the city, there's no direct way of payment to them or funding commitment between the two parties. So the two is through the Historic Commission, but at the same time is that it needs an agreement to establish the flow of money so that when we go out to bid and the procedures and everything else and processing payment, there's an agreement in place that we can pay the Lockwood Matthews Mansion expenses when they submit requests to the city. So fundamentally, it's a funding it's a funding instrument. That's what we're doing tonight.
Yeah,
Susan, if you can go through the schedule a little bit, where are you now, and when do you intend to start construction, and how much this project is expected to cost? You mute. Susan, you muted.
we have
Muted.
her. Now you're muted. Susan, unmute there.
There you go. Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. The project now is in design development. We've been working with our architectural team to prepare, we're in the design development phase. And so we're working through a lot of the project components. We have not done a full project cost estimate yet. We project to do that in the next few weeks. But we wanted to put into place the accessibility of the city funds. So we didn't have to move into that phase at a later date.
Do you have any idea when you would actually start construction?
Construction is scheduled to begin in January of 2022. We're a little bit behind right now, but I'm hoping it will be in the winter of 2022.
winter 2022.
Yeah,
You're talking, does that mean December 22 or January?
no,
22?
no, January.
Yeah, okay. What, as I understand it, the state grant has an expiration date, is that correct? And if so,
Yes,
what
it
is?
does.
So what is that date?
I'd have to look at that, Tom, for you, but I think it's 2/24.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Keegan?
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Schweitzer, I support the project yet. At this time, I'm wondering if we as a committee, it would be prudent for us to maybe table our decision based upon the fact that we have possibly some real issues coming up with our capital budget and the many requests, one of which is something as important as bathrooms in some of our middle schools. And I would hate to have to decide if we should put bathrooms in the middle schools versus your project, although I believe both of them are very, very important. So I'm asking, is it possible for us to table this request for a short period until, well, for sake of a better phrase, until the dust settles on our capital budget?
I would only like to say that we're not asking for appropriations at this time. We're not asking even for money at this time. We have agreed with the city and the comptroller's office to schedule out a program of projected needs for this money. But what we want to have in place is this assistance agreement with the city, so we do not have to come back through this process at some later time when I would guess a call on this money would probably not be substantial until construction is well underway.
Mr. Hoviman, you had a question?
Just to, so I'm understanding, we bonded this, this is already bonded, correct? The
It's
2.5 million.
approved,
It's approved
been
in an
approved.
account? Okay.
approved but not bonded, right?
Yeah,
Right.
typical of all capital budget projects. Like every year we go for capital budget approval, whether we approve $20 million, $25 million, whatever it may be every year. The budget's approved, but then the controller's office and finance department consult with the department staff to figure how much money we're going to spend on each project per year. And then as a group, then the finance department will go out to bond that specific amount. So we could be bonding, let's say $15 million this year, and then there's every budget, some of these projects will tap into the same funding, same bonding allowance. So this project has not been bonded yet, but it's budgeted for $2.5 million.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if it were to be bonded, and they don't bond in specific projects, but it wouldn't be bonded until probably next year sometime. Is that correct?
I think our call on this money going into construction in 2022, our early call on this money has to do with a shared obligation with the state on some architectural and engineering, which is not a lot of money, and project management services, again, not a lot of money. The significant money and call on this particular bonding would not come to the end of the project, which is probably, and I'm really going out there, Tom, because I don't have a specific schedule of construction yet, but it would be on the back end of a lot of the construction. So it might even go out as late as 2023.
Mr. Burnett?
Yes, two questions. One, are we in receipt of the $5 million from the state? And if not, when do we anticipate that funding to be available?
Mr. Burnett, that funding is already available.
Okay,
We have been already processing invoices with them, particularly for the upfront costs of design, engineering, and project management services. So yes, that money is completely available to us.
okay, thank you, great.
I just want to add that the money is not coming to the city. It's actually coming to Lockwood and Matthews Mansion Museum.
Okay. My other, it's more of I guess, concern is the last item on this assistance agreement, which talks about if there's a balance from the $2.5 million, that would be used as a free balance for use for other activities and improvements beyond this specific project. In line with the comment that Council Member Keegan made where we're watching every single item in our capital budget, I'm a little concerned with if there's part of this 2.5 that's not being utilized for this specific project, just sitting in a free balance that could be used for other projects and not having that money returned to the capital budget for other projects. I'm somewhat concerned with just having that money available for basically anything related to improvements.
Yeah, let me explain. What happened is that since the state is funding $5 million, the intent of the way this is being proposed is that it's only going to cover the overage, because this project always been $7 to $8 million project, right? So the state only gave us $5 million. So the intent here is to spend the state money first, and they go out. The project doesn't mean the overall project. It means the project, the state. So we're gonna go out to bid on a construction project. But there could be, total scope could be $8 million, $9 million, whatever it may be. But we had to put a project out that's under $7.5 million because there's $5 million from the state and $2.5 million. So the project isn't the overall project. It's really the specific project that they're going out to bid on. So they do a construction package that's worth $6.6 million, right? So what happened is that when we finish the project, we spent $6 million. There's $1 million left, but it still is for the Lockwood Matthews Mansion Museum construction project, but not the specific project that the state is involved in. Do you follow?
I do follow, and I think my concern is still the same, that we're allocating $2.5 million in concert with the $5 million from the state for this specific project, but that 2.5 is kind of, there's wiggle room with that money, and I would, you know, I would be more comfortable seeing the money used to complete the project, and if there's leftover money, have that returned to the capital budget for other projects, as opposed to just sitting in a free balance to be used for other projects.
So Greg, I look at this and I read this that they can recommend the utilization of the free balance for additional work. It doesn't mean we've agreed to it. But
that to me is a play on words. I mean, if we allocate it and we sign this agreement, I'm sure the expectation is this 2.5 that will be available to be used. And, you know, whoever's sitting in the chairs would have to approve it at the particular time. I understand that, but I still have a concern with this free balance item in this agreement.
I think it's partially it's my wording on this. I think what happened is that when we look at a project that's, forget the discussion state, they say $8 million, right? We have like $7.5 million. So when we put a package out to bid, we may exclude certain item that's a part of this project. Let's say, I don't know, just for discussion's sake, it's the alarm system, right? Security alarm system. So we took that out so that the project would come within our $7.5 million project. And the bids came in, we finished construction. It's $7 million, still $500,000 left. So we can go on to the next project, which is still the same project, but it's just that the scope has been delayed because we are trying to have to make sure that we got the bid on a project that within our budget. But there may be, again, we may take certain item out that's worth $500,000. So after we finish the construction, then we can go on to the next project, which is the alarm system that we didn't put in initially because we're trying to stay within budget so we don't go overrun. So it's not a different project. It's just the overall project. We may take certain pieces of it to come up with something that we go out to bid that's still within our project, and we won't exceed the budget when we go out to bid. But then the other tasks that we have later on doesn't mean that's not part of this project. It's just that we hold out those scopes just to make sure we come in within budget.
So Alan, just to clarify, you don't see there being any funds left over?
I don't see any fund being leftovers. But the project we go out to bid on could be $6.2 million or $7 million. And there's money left, but then there's other things that is supposed to be done, but we haven't get to it yet because we don't want to bid a project out that's $8 million because then we can't sign any contracts. So we have to bid it below. The project should come in like making it up here, $6.5 million because we spent some engine architecture fees and stuff like that and contingency. So we have to have project that come in within budget first. And then any leftover money, we can do the items that we left out on purpose so that we come within budget. I think that's the wording that we intended to say. So
I mean, to Greg's point, and I hear what he's saying, that he doesn't want, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Greg, but it sounds like you're saying it's okay to spend it for the project, however we define that, but not for anything else, right? And the language is a little, I can see what you're saying. It's a little vague there as of what it means. It says upon completion of the project, you know, you can use it for the project.
Yeah, I mean, basically it says upon completion of the project, that to me says the project is completed, it's done. But if there's unexpended city funds, so now you're saying if you haven't spent all the money, we can use it for other projects. I mean, if it's one thing to say, yeah,
complete a state project.
well, first of all, if we're anticipating that, you know, the whole $7.5 million is going to be used, I don't even know why we have this bullet to begin with, because we're anticipating that all the money will be used on this project. So there shouldn't be leftover. I mean, how do we handle any project when we come in under budget? What do we do with the remaining amount of that money? It returns to the capital fund, correct?
Right.
So why are we not handling this project the same way we do any other project? If you come in under, the remaining amount goes back into the capital fund for other projects. It's not held in a free balance for other projects related to a property.
Well,
We don't do that with schools. If a school comes in under budget, the remaining money returns to the overall capital fund. We don't keep it in a free balance for that school to use on other things.
I think
I'm just a little, I'm just not clear. I've never seen this clause before, and that's why I'm raising it now. That's all.
yeah, I think when the term project, I think it's a little confusing. It's not the overall project. It's like Maritime Aquarium. The project is actually the initial bid that we got was like $50 million. We have a budget $40 million. So we changed the scope. So the way we work with the state is that we actually went out to bid when we took out the Maricat, we took out the Goldfish tank, and we took out the west entrance. So to make sure the bids come in within the $40 million. So we anticipate there's $1.5 million or left. And at this point, we are looking at the scope that we took out of the project to try to do as much of the other projects as possible. So the money doesn't get revert back to the state or anything. It's just that we reduce the scope so that we come in within budget. But the project, this specific construction project has been completed. It was going to be completed, but the overall project has not been. So that's why we're keeping the money in there to continue to do the items that we are supposed to do, but we didn't get to yet. So similarly, to Lockwood Matthews mentioned, back then, this is a few years ago, their estimate is somewhere around $9 million, whatever it may be, I don't even know. But we had to issue a package that's within $7.5 million, leaving out some scope that we would not be included in it. So after that project is finished, then we got to continue with the other items that we haven't done yet. I think that's
So Alan, if I understand you right, there's an overall project to renovate the building, which has sort of component projects within it.
right.
And what you're saying is, you know, if we fund one of those components and we have some money left over, it can go to other components as long as they're part of that project, the overall project.
Right.
And I understand what you're saying. I think and I also understand Mr. Burnett's issue with the language. It's a little confusing to follow, but I do understand now.
I'm not sure we need to have that bullet in there. I mean, again, after we finish this phase of the construction, this is kind of phase 3, I think it is. So there's multiple phases to this. I mean, we did the electrical upgrade a number of years ago, and then we did with another state grant, it did the ADA access to the front of the building. The second phase, I think this would be the third phase of it. And after that, there's still other work to be done. So
are you proposing, Mr. Burnett, to take out that bullet? Would you be okay with that?
If it's allowable, that would be my position. I don't know the other members of the committee, but I think that would bring a level of comfort for me that those funds aren't just sitting in some free account.
Any other thoughts on Barbara?
I think, yeah, either take it out or amend it to clarify exactly what we mean.
Alan, you're okay with taking it out?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So we move forward. I mean, I don't know, if Mr. Keegan, if you have other things you wanted to talk about. Oh, actually, David, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a mouse issue. I couldn't unmute. Specifically, what we're voting on tonight is, are we voting on this language, this proposed terms and conditions of the agreement? Or are we voting on this assistance agreement? That's my confusion. I'm not sure what it is that we're actually voting on. You were talking before, Alan, that we have to enter into an assistance agreement to be able to actually dole out the funds properly. And so I'm looking at the other part of this, which is the support material that you've given us, where it says the following are proposed terms and conditions for this agreement. Is that the assistance agreement?
My memo is what I sent to the law department to prepare the assistant agreement. So I can update that memo to change whatever the committee wishes to do in terms of inclusion into the terms. And then after the Common Council approve it, that memo will go to the law departments. They can draft the agreement.
I'm in agreement that I think that it needs to be altered in some way or removed, because especially considering the timing of where we're at right now, what we're proposing with the capital budget coming up and the conversations that are following with that, and what we're involved in with COVID, I think that the idea of a free balance for one commission or part of our community right now, I don't think is a smart move. So that's my thoughts.
Alan, what about the idea of sort of deferring this to the next meeting when we have the actual assistance agreement to look at? Is that something we could do?
It's a little bit typically, again, I mean,
I know
generally speaking, the law department does not start preparing document until the council approves it.
Yeah, Alan, I know that's the norm. I know that, but that's when we have third parties involved. This is all among family, right? It's a little different.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I can ask the law department to start drafting it.
I wouldn't think it would be a very long agreement. What do you guys think? I mean, I can go either way. I just thought, I know between some of the comments that have been raised, people maybe feel more comfortable seeing the actual assistance agreement. And it doesn't seem, is it really time sensitive?
That's the question, is if it's time sensitive, which it doesn't seem to be. I think that's a good idea, Mr. Livingston. I do. Just push it off a month. Unless Ms. Schweitzer has information for us that there's a time sensitivity.
I think it is time sensitive only to the extent that we have an obligation to the state to show that we have moved on our obligation, which was one of their conditions, that this 2.5 is part of their contribution. And I don't have a problem with your having issues with some of the terms and conditions. Maybe you could modify your action to move this to, and I'm not sure, Alan, I'm going to defer to you here, move this to a draft agreement that you would like to see before you took action, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with any of your comments. I do have a problem with pushing this out and delaying this because I really would like to have the assistance agreement in play as the state moves forward with their continued funding of the project.
I can simply remove that sentence from my letter and redraft this and send it to the common council if that works for the committee.
That would be fine with me.
Yeah, it's the committee's decision whether, I mean, I think I would try, actually I wrote those paragraphs and those sentences. I think I would try to provide some transparency in terms of what happens if there's $7.5 million, the state finishes project, and then there's money left, what happens to the money? And that's intended that we will continue. So as transparency, the reason I include the language so that everybody understand that if there's $500,000 left, it's going to continue to finish the item that we haven't touched yet. So that's what the intent. So I mean, it is intent to draw up a conversation so you understand what we're doing if there's money left behind. But if we all understand that the money after you finish this phase of the project, there's additional work that is supposed to be as part of this approvals. We will be working on it. That's the intent. Oh, one other thing that Susan, on your comment, I'm not so sure that we're looking at this. The city is looking at this as a contribution to the state's effort. I think the word I would use is supplement what the $5 million that doesn't do, so that we would spend the state money first, and then the state, and then so that we can go out to bid and we spend the $5 million. When it go over $5 million, the city will cover the difference. I think that's the intent of this, the setup of this assistance agreement. It's subsequent to when the state run out of money of $5 million. That's when our money the city's money come into play.
I think in concept, that's exactly correct. There is some of the monies that the city has obligated that are upfront monies for some of the preliminary completion of the design agreements and our contract with our project management services that would apply to the city money. So there would be some contractual obligations that would be needed to be paid up front with them, but the major construction monies all would fall on the tail end of this project.
Yeah, because I don't want, I mean, it's very complicated administration process if it's a joint venture kind of thing, because what happens is that every requisition from the contractor comes in, a portion of it from the city. So there's a payment coming from the state, there's a payment coming from the city, and how much is that, and what the portion is, and then what happens? You spend up to $6 million, then there's leftover money from the state, but yet, and then we are contributing money again. So I would hope that the state's going to look at it the same way that I am, is that they funded $5 million. Our 2.5 is actually supplement any shortfall that the state has for this project.
Yeah, okay, I want to keep this moving here tonight.
Sure.
So Susan, you're saying you need to have this ASAP?
What I'm saying is I would like for you to approve, which is what the motion is to execute an assistance agreement with the Lockwood Matthews Mansion. If the terms and conditions need to be adjusted or amended, I'm all fine with that. I really need to move the assistance agreement into the execution process.
Okay, thank you. So I would propose that we move forward with this tonight with the change we've been discussing, which is to drop that last bullet.
That's fine.
I'm asking the committee. I guess I'll move that amendment to the item. I'm not sure how we do that exactly.
We have to make a motion to amend.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. So well, we can,
Well, if I may, the terms and conditions are in a draft format, and it's a draft format that you would be approving to forward to the law department. And so you can totally amend your approval to ask for these to be removed or considered, but we would like to have the motion to move the agreement on to approval by the council so that the law department can now draft.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so I'm just gonna move that we amend this resolution to delete the item on Alan's, last item bullet on Alan's list. So I'll put that up for a vote.
That's fine.
All in favor, raise your hands, indicate aye. Any opposed? Any opposed or abstention, Mr. Keegan?
Opposed.
Okay, thank you. So 5 in favor, Mr. Keegan's opposed. Okay, now to vote on the item as amended. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, you can saying aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, so all in favor except for Mr. Keegan, who is opposed. All right, thank you. All right, let's move on.
Thank you all for your consideration.
And thank you. School construction projects. Jim, if you could, and we've already taken a lot longer than I thought we would on that first item, so you're going to get squeezed a little bit.
Not a problem. I can go through very quickly our update. I have both John Gombatz and Mike Fienza with me today, who are project managers on specific projects here. And we'll move through this fairly quickly. The Ponus Ridge School, we're still in closeout phase. We're working with the construction manager to assist him in making sure that he expedites the finalization of all the contracts that are still open. We are still going through some working out some and tweaking some of the HVAC system. The project will also still be under contract for our commissioning agent, which has a obligation to come back after 10 months of full operation to do review and analysis of how the mechanical systems are running in the building. So complete closeout of this project, will probably take upwards of 12 months, 10 to 12 months. We have applied for our last reimbursement from the state, and we're awaiting to hear back from the state for our last reimbursement on Ponus. The next project is Jefferson, and I'll turn that over to Mike Fienza, who is the project manager on the Jefferson renovation, his new project. Mike?
Thanks, Jim. At this point in the project, the construction manager for the project, Newfield Construction, has put all of the trade packages for the project out to bid and has established a guaranteed maximum price that you'll actually be approving later in the meeting tonight. And at this point, the project's scheduled to begin in early March, and we'll begin with the demolition of the portable classrooms at the rear of the property and some site work in the rear of the building at that time, and then move into the renovations of the existing building in June, after the kids that are in the building are done for this school year. Also, in addition to the site work at the rear of the building, in the image that you see, we'll be constructing the new gymnasium. So all the preparation work and the construction of that gymnasium will also start when the site work begins at the rear of the property.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Cranberry, John Gombatz is our project manager for the Cranberry project.
Thanks, Jim. Currently, the project team is working with the school administration to develop a schematic design. We have another meeting, like Alan said, on Friday, and then we will go to the building advisory committee. We're going to set up a meeting in about 2 weeks to review the changes that we made through the schematic design to finish that up. And we have a SDR schematic design review with the state scheduled for March. That's our current schedule.
Can I ask you about that in terms of the site plan, the comment we received earlier? Have you guys figured out exactly how the layout's going to work on the site?
We currently do. We have, we laid out the wetlands and we do have a tentative layout of the building currently. We could get engineers involved to have some feedback on the photovoltaics.
Yeah, I think that would be useful.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Yeah, let me just want to say one thing. The space available for a new building is very limited. We are confined because we're keeping the existing building. So this is construction while the building is occupied. So we are building a building, and the area that we have, it's where the softball field is, the Little League field is. So, and also that's bounded by wetlands. So the orientation of the building is very specific based on the site limitations.
Okay, John, why don't you update on Merrimack?
For Merrimack, we completed the design development stage last month. We met with the state of Connecticut, OSC GNR, and progressed into construction design. So I am picking up the drawings this Friday to start the local approvals with the Board of Ed and local departments. Currently, we are looking for an anticipated start date of May 15th, and we are meeting with facilities and the school to discuss staging and the schedule of construction.
Okay,
And what's the schedule completion date roughly?
The construction will be complete of the new structure for the return of school. And then by November, we'll have the new cafeteria up and running for the school.
all right. Norwalk High School completed the architect's request for qualifications and sent that up to purchasing. I did get a final copy back for review and comment late this afternoon. There are some accompanying documents that are lagging behind but can be issued as an addendum. I'm finalizing those, hopefully to have those done by Friday or Monday of the following week. The architect selection process will take us to the beginning of April. We anticipate presenting to land use our suggestion of the selected architect. So we're going to have a busy time with meetings in March. The new Columbus School, we are still talking with Board of Ed as to what their idea of the new Columbus School is going to look like. That kind of has taken a little bit of a backseat at this time as we're getting through Norwalk High School and the budget. But we anticipate re-engaging in discussion in March. As well, Norwalk Global Academy really is contingent upon the status of the new Columbus project. So any questions?
All right, hearing none. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
All right, let's go on then. B2, review recommendation for building commissioning services for Cranberry School Improvement Project, and for the following recommendation, the Common Council for action. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Innovative Engineering Services LLC to provide building systems commissioning services for the new Cranberry Elementary School project for a total not to exceed $45,400, account noted. B, authorized to establish a contingency for additional services as may be required for a total not to exceed $4,500. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Silverman, thank you. Alan, anything special about this? We've been through commissioning agents before.
Yeah, no, we have hired construction. We hired an architect already. We hired the construction manager. So this is part of the overall process. And again, construction commissioning is it's a consultant services that make sure the system installed and run properly. It's essential to today's standard and also a high performance building. That's something that's required by the state.
Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, indicate by raising your hand or saying aye. Okay, any opposed? No, unanimous. Okay, thank you. Item 3, review proposed guaranteed maximum price for Jefferson School renovation project. Refer the following recommendation to Common Council for action. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an amendment to the agreement with Newfield Construction, Inc. as the construction manager for the Jefferson Elementary School renovated new project to accept the guaranteed maximum price in the amount of $24,856,821. Account noted. B, authorize the Land Use and Building Management Committee to issue change orders on contract for a total not to exceed $1,242,841. Of a motion? Mr. Keegan, thank you. Alan? Or Jim, I don't know who.
Yeah, Jim, if you don't mind.
Well, sure. Yeah, the guaranteed maximum price obviously is culmination of all the trade contractors' bids. We went and did a public bid. The bids were then vetted, or what we call a scope review, to ensure that all the contractors, low contractors, included the scope as identified in the bid documents. We vetted out all the trade contractors and compiled their numbers along with the general conditions of the construction manager into our guaranteed maximum price that we are presenting right now.
So Jim, how did this come out compared to your expectations?
Favorably. The bids came in much lower than we anticipated. I think that really goes to the state of the economy right now. You know, we're happy that we stuck to our bid schedule. We had some other projects out there, some larger projects that we were going to be bidding against. Thankfully for us, those some of those projects got extended and our bid came in first. Sometimes that helps us in getting more favorable numbers, and in this case it did. So we're happy that the bids came out the way they did. We are anticipating an increase in bid numbers as the year goes on because more work is going to be coming out. You know, we think some of the private sector is going to get is going to get busier, and as a result, those contractors are going to have a little bit more work and won't be as aggressive. So we're happy with where we are.
Good. Any questions, discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Mr. Burnett, are you in? Mr. Burnett, did you vote?
You were frozen before.
Greg? Oh, favor. Okay, so anybody opposed? So passed unanimously. Okay, thank you. 4, review recommendation increase architectural design contingency for Jefferson School renovation project to cover environmental mediation monitoring services and refer the following to Common Council for action. Authorized to increase the contingency allowance for additional services for Antonazzi Associates for architectural and other sub-consultant services for the Jefferson School improvement project for an additional not to exceed $45,000 account noted. Motion, please. Anyone?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Hooverman, thank you. Alan? Jim?
Yeah, I just want to go over real quickly. When we go RFP for architects, we include some allowance for environmental consultants. But at the same time, we do not put aside any money for construction administration services relating to environmental remediation, because at that point, we don't have an environmental report. We don't know what the extent of the remediation is. So at the time we approved the architect contract, we have $50,000 set aside for contingency. Based on the amount of remediation that's required at Jefferson School, the updated number, it's actually, I think it's $92,000. So I'm requesting an increase by $45,000 for a total of $95,000 to cover the amendment of the contract to cover remediation services. It's based on hourly rates plus all the testing that's required to be done. So it's very specific. It's not like a lump sum thing. It's really, it's based on actual hours spent and testing that's required. So there's a breakdown on the tests and everything else, and as part of this backup material.
Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, a call for a vote. All in favor? Say aye. Mr. Burnett, you're frozen again, I think. All right, thank you. Any opposed? No, so unanimous, okay. Next item is to designate the Councilman John Kide as a member of the Norwalk High School Building Advisory Committee for the upcoming new Norwalk High School project. We previously designated Ms. Smith as a member of that committee, and we're adding John to that. Is it? There's no discussion. I'll just call for a vote. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? And Greg, I still can't see your hand. I don't know what's going on. Greg?
It looks like he froze again.
He's frozen.
Mr. Burnett?
We gotta play him the song.
Nice photo, though.
Can you
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. You in favor? You keep freezing.
Yeah, my internet my internet is terrible tonight. Yes.
Okay, so unanimous. Okay, thank you. All right, item C1, review recommendation, replace air handler unit number 1 at City Hall, and refer the following to the Common Council for action. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Universal Building Services LLC for City Hall air handler unit number 1 refurbishment project for a total not to exceed $78,900, account noted. B, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue change orders on contracts for a total not to exceed $7,890. Do you have a motion?
I'll move it.
Mr. Smith, thank you. Alan?
Yeah, this is part of our, City Hall was built in 1986, 87, so it's been like 32 years, no, 34 years, whatever it may be. We have a number of air handler units, the 5 major ones, and there's some secondary ones. Through the last two years or so, we have replaced and refurbished the units. So when we say refurbish, it's not like a minor repair, it's not a Band-Aid on it. We anticipate that refurbishment will give us 20, 25 years of use of the equipment. As part of this new equipment, there's energy saving features in it and controls in it. So everything is part of the overall plan that we have in terms of upgrading the building and maintaining the building. And also one of the reasons why we break down to different pieces, besides we don't want to, we didn't ask the city for $500,000 to do all 5 unit kind of thing. We did it. One of the reasons is that we only do this unit during shoulder seasons because we can't do it in the middle of summer or the middle of winter because heating and cooling. So we very specifically target these projects. So we intend to do this project in springtime, probably April or May, or middle of April probably. And we at the same time we're actually preparing bid documents to work on to go out to bid for the last unit, which is we're going to get bids in probably for the next land use meeting, if not the one after, for the replacement renovation of the last one, probably in the fall of this year. So that complete our 5 major air handler units. That's it.
Any questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? There we go, everybody. Okay, so it's unanimous. All right, thank you. So that's the end of the agenda. Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss, or Alan?
No, just real quick, just back to the item we talked about. I know Lockwood Math mentioned, I will send out an email to everybody tomorrow with the updated memo, so you will have it.
Okay, thank you. We'll make sure it gets into the council.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, hearing.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
yes, the only question I had to Alan was in reference to the comments that were made in public participation about the air handlers. Not necessary for you to respond to it tonight, but after you've done a level of research, if you could just maybe give us a response on the comments that were made.
Very good. Email my response to it in writing to you through email.
Thank you.
Sure.
Or Alan, if you want to just do the next meeting, that's fine too.
No, I put it in writing. It's cleaner. It's not.
Okay.
we
Anything
put it
else?
together.
Anything else? Then I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Keegan, thank you. All in favor? All right, unanimous. Thank you all. Have a good night. All right, thanks, Alan. Thanks,
Okay, sure.
everybody.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
All right, everybody.